Men's national team general manager Brian McBride. Brian, thanks for taking a few minutes and talking with us here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I like the jersey in the back there, Ben.
Oh yeah, thanks. Got a rotation going on here. Um, so you obviously had a successful playing career at the club and national team level, and then recently you've transitioned to a general manager role. Could you talk a little bit about what that transition was like and what your role is under Ernie Stewart and with Greg Berhalter?
Yeah, the transition was pretty long in between retiring and then taking up this position. And part of it was, in the beginning, I wanted to be able to be home on the weekends after retiring and being gone, countless weekends away from my family. It was really nice for me to be able to spend time and do some coaching of my daughter's clubs and activities and still stay a part of it by working with ESPN and Fox during those periods. But as time grew, that desire to get back into the day-to-day running of soccer was there, and so this opportunity came about, and it's something that I've enjoyed and look forward to continue to work and help U.S. soccer progress. So, as far as my duties, I oversee the men's national team and the youth national teams on the boys' side. On top of that, there's many other things that are inside U.S. soccer structure, but that's really the overall aspect to it.
We sat down with Greg Berhalter yesterday, and he said one of the lines that he gave was that he was passionate about changing the perception of U.S. soccer around the world. And I assume that is a thing that you keep close to your heart as well, having played for the team for so long. How do you see your role in that changing the perception? Obviously, Greg's in charge of the results on the field, but you shaping the rosters, all of that kind of stuff. What do you think about that quote?
Yeah, my part is really more of an infrastructure side of it, and making sure that what the coaching staff needs they have, and also as our youth national team players or as young soccer players come through, that we're able to continue to build the pool, and that involves communication with clubs. That involves making sure that our youth national team coaches have what they need, and really make sure that there's this not a chain, but basically a understanding of where our youth can actually step in and make a difference eventually for the men's national team.
So obviously, while you're here, U.S. playing Canada here just next week. What is the process like for selecting host cities like that, and what do you feel Nashville brings, specific, not just for the game, but as a base camp for the qualifiers?
It's a great question, and I think a lot of people think it's as easy as just saying, "Hey, we like that city, we like that stadium, let's go." There's so much more to it, especially this go around, because we'll have three matches in a matter of just over a week, and travel comes into it, weather, stadiums, the training facilities, all of that comes into play when we're making decisions on sites, and it's a very intricate and detailed decision, and we're really happy that it worked out for Nashville to be able to host us, and especially host our first home qualifying game, which we all know is of huge importance. Home games are.
The team's coming off an incredibly successful summer, beating Mexico in 2 finals, with kind of more and more players playing at the highest level in Europe, guys getting sold at younger ages from MLS over to Europe. What are the expectations for this upcoming World Cup cycle?
Well, we start off at qualifying. We have to qualify for the World Cup. That is the expectation. We know it's not an easy thing, and we're not taking it for granted by any means. So we'll start there and then build on the possibilities of what can happen at a World Cup. But we definitely are aware of some difficulties and some pitfalls that may lie ahead, and we just have to be prepared for those situations.
With kind of the switch to a different format, playing 3 games in one window instead of 2, just what are the big changes just on a logistics standpoint? There's been talk about bringing in larger groups. How does that impact your role, and what are you expecting from I guess especially this first window with El Salvador, Canada, and Honduras?
It's a great question, Ben, because the recovery aspect becomes hugely important. Usually, you have players come in either Sunday or Monday for a period of recovery for first 2 days, adaptation if they're coming from Europe. All of that gets heightened. Instead of having a game on Saturday and a game on Tuesday, you have a game on Thursday. So when they arrive, whether it's Sunday or Monday or possibly sometimes Tuesday, they might have 1 or 2 days of training together. So the importance of what we were able to achieve this summer certainly is heightened, but also with the 3 matches, recovery is going to be a huge factor as we prepare the players for a game, and then 2 days later another game, and then 2 days later another game.
Canada comes to town coming up on September 5th, and that team's grown a lot over the last few years, probably the best side they've ever fielded. Talk a little bit about that team and, just the quality that they've been able to develop in their pool, just north. For so long, it's just been Mexico, 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 but this Canadian side is the real deal.
Yeah, they are, Davey. And credit to them. They've put together not only a strong group of players that can perform technically, but you saw at the Gold Cup, they have an understanding of how they want to play. They press well. They have some individual talent that they haven't had in the past. Alphonso Davies, of course, I think everybody knows how special a player he is, and the fact that he can play in many different positions. So yes, it is going to be a difficult game, and one we're excited to get going here for qualifying. We'll have El Salvador first, and then an very important home match here in Nashville against Canada.
Obviously, kind of looking down the road, Nashville's still in the running for a 2026 World Cup hosting bid. What Nashville's hosting the U.S. obviously as a base camp as well as the actual game venue. What do you think are some strengths for Nashville as they look to host a World Cup bid? Not just the field and Nissan Stadium and all that, but just kind of as a city, kind of bigger picture.
Yeah, I think my wife probably can talk more to the fun parts of Nashville. I've only been here for work. Certainly, she has. She speaks very highly of it. But more importantly, I think when we look at it, and one of the reasons we're here is because Nashville is a great sports venue. They have great fans. We have enjoyed our time in the past being here. Now the fact that Nashville SC is really rooted here, and you have an MLS club, I think that's going to be another bonus. When you look at from people who are making the decisions, which I'm not one of those people, but yeah, certainly a lot of positives as Nashville puts their bid in for a 2026 site.
Brian, a few years ago, Taylor Twellman kind of went viral, I guess is the word, for a rant he did after the U.S. men's national team failed to qualify for the last World Cup. And the question he kept asking is, what are we doing? What are we doing? And, kind of total overchange since then. The roster looks nothing. Front office looks nothing the same. Coaching staff very totally different as well. So what is your answer to that question? What are we doing? Obviously, it looks a lot different now than it did 4 years ago.
Well, I think that what you're seeing is actually what we were doing, what U.S. Soccer was doing during that period. You're seeing the players that have come through the youth system that has been put in place, and certainly that has a lot to do with what the DA used to be, and the structure and the settings that players have been put in at a younger age. But there's still more work ahead for us. We've got to make sure that we have influence in younger ages, being able to provide them with better experiences, whether that's better coaches, whether that's an environment that is very much oriented towards preparing younger players for tougher competition. But as far as what we're doing and what we were doing, and this with regards to this group of players that are coming through, I think everybody gets to really see what was happening in the infrastructure of the youth soccer, because now we're seeing those players be major factors in the men's national team.
Brian, this question is pretty similar. But how does MLS fit into that? Obviously, they're developing players, like Davey mentioned, selling them to Europe younger. But how do they continue developing talent that can be integrated into the U.S. youth national teams and then eventually the men's national team?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I touched on environments. So, players that have the ability at a young age to train with professionals. Being a 15, 16-year-old and being asked to cover or fill in and train with a professional team is something we didn't have before. And those are the things you see in Europe all the time. So that young player will then go back to his team and understand what it takes to train and practice at the level of professional is, and hopefully bring that somewhat professional aspect to younger trainings. And that's how you gain this understanding of what is expected of you as a player, and the experience that players need to be able to be pushed and go up levels quickly.
On the way out the door, we're lucky enough in Nashville to see Walker Zimmerman kind of week in, week out. He captained a few games in the Gold Cup before his injury. So many times we hear fans talk about, oh, well, that guy's playing in Portugal, he must be better. Oh, or he's in Belgium, he must be better. Walker is up there in the pool as one of the best center backs that we see kind of anytime a U.S. shirt is put on. Why don't you talk just a bit about the idea of leagues, hierarchies, all of that stuff, and why MLS really does have a role just in the product on the field?
Yeah, I mean, first, let me, I can touch on Walker. He's definitely a large part of our group. He's a leader in our group. And you can see that with Nashville. He tends to take over games when it's needed. So, certainly Nashville's lucky to have him. And with regards to our group and then talking about players, whether it's right for them to go to Europe or not, I think it's everybody's, where they are individually. And we feel and know that MLS is definitely a large part of the reason players get the opportunity to go overseas, but also sometimes players don't necessarily want to go. And as much as, we talk about leagues that are better and so on and so forth, it really is about making sure that as a player you are pushed and you are challenged. And so that to me is more of the conversation than one's better than the other.
Brian McBride has been the guest, general manager of the U.S. men's national team. Brian, we're super appreciative of your time, and we look forward, just like everybody, to this game coming up on September 5th at Nissan Stadium.
Right on. Let's look forward to seeing you guys out there and seeing a lot of fans supporting the U.S.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.